Hey everyone, welcome back to the A MOTIV MIND podcast YouTube channel where I, your host Autumn, talk all things mental health, relationships, manifesting and spirituality, self-love, and owning a small business, Kello Collective. At Kello Collective, here on this channel, you can look forward to the video recordings of each podcast episode and shorts with snippets from each video. And be sure to subscribe and turn on your post notifications so that you don't miss the new episodes every Tuesday. And if you prefer to listen to the podcast instead of watching, you can listen on Spotify, which I will leave the link in the description box below for you. Also in the description box, you can find the links to stay connected to the A MOTIV MIND podcast by liking, subscribing, and following on Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify at A MOTIV MIND podcast. And it would mean so much to me if you would support the podcast through my small business, Kello Collective, hand-poured coconut soy candles and products, which you can shop on kellocollective.com. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to Kello Collective on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok at Kello Collective. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the video and the podcast. On the last episode, we talked about grief, healing, angel numbers, and the spirituality side of losing a loved one. On this episode, we're going to talk about feeling stuck in life and your mind, COVID, trying to start a cosmetic business in the pandemic, and the crippling anxiety that started to ramp up before I had one of the worst panic attacks in my life. Before COVID hit, I was feeling very lost, trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a career or what business I wanted to start, but I had a passion for makeup. Not only was makeup a way for me to express myself, it was an outlet to escape my anxiety and do something calming that I enjoyed. Makeup was therapeutic for me. I would sit in my makeup vanity for hours practicing looks, making tutorials, watching tutorials, and looking up makeup trends. I even started making social media accounts for my looks to try and build a platform. So after spending majority of 2019 focusing on upping my makeup skills and learning about makeup, I started to dive into how to create makeup. Since high school, I wanted to own my own business, so it only made sense at that time to try and turn my passion into a business. I would sit in my room for hours with a notebook and laptop researching how to make lipstick, lip liners, and even eyeshadow palettes. I had a folder in my phone filled with logo ideas, packaging and free gift ideas, any and everything beauty business related. I was brainstorming about it. Fast forward to March of 2020. By that point, I was ready to go ahead and get my business license and get this cosmetic business started, but I still needed to get the products to actually start playing around with making them. But I just wanted to go ahead and have my business legal so that way I could go ahead and start it whenever I wanted. Now, that's what I ended up doing. So I remember feeling so excited when I finally went into the office down at the courthouse to get my business license. It felt like I was getting ready to start a new chapter in my life and really make my dreams a reality sooner than later. I was still working a part-time job at this time until weeks later when the news was going crazy about this new virus that was popping up, and it was spreading everywhere. COVID. Within weeks of getting my business license, I was laid off of my job due to COVID, which threw a monkey wrench in my plans. Not only that, but COVID increased my anxiety significantly because not only was I still dealing with panic attacks, physical symptoms, fear of leaving the house, and health anxiety, I was now truly scared of COVID taking away one of my loved ones or something happening to me. COVID brought a lot of conflicting feelings for me though, because on one hand, to be honest, I was really happy to get out of the job that I was at and be able to stay home due to my extreme bad anxiety. But on the other hand, as we all felt, the fear of getting sick and not knowing how my bills would be paid after getting laid off caused a lot of stress, paranoia, and overthinking. One of the hardest things mentally that I was worrying about was my parents and keeping them safe. I remember running to all of the stores across my city trying to get supplies for them and researching natural ways to boost your immune system. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But COVID affected my mental health tremendously, and probably the worst out of all areas of my anxiety was the health anxiety. I was already spending my days overthinking every little ache or pain or weird feeling, but now I associated all those physical feelings with COVID. Seeing the numbers go up of people who passed away from COVID made me terrified, and I 100% know that I'm not the only one that felt that way. But another way that COVID affected my mental health was feeling hopeless. Hopeless that life would never be the same, hopeless that I was not going to be able to start my business or find a new job in the meantime to pay my bills. I felt like things were doomed. I was already stuck in my life and felt like I couldn't escape my reality. I wanted to be financially independent, get my own place, be self-employed, and make something of myself. But COVID put those plans on hold. I spent the next few months sitting at home, letting my anxiety consume me. The depersonalization symptom was the one that I experienced the most. Feeling like you're not mentally present in the moment, like you're in a cloud. I talked about this in the first episode, but this is essentially where you have feelings of not being in your body or thoughts that make you think you're not real. It really does make you feel like you're crazy and out of your mind. It's the most trippy thing that I've ever experienced. But depersonalization can be a symptom of anxiety or a disorder. For me, it was just a symptom, thankfully, but please consult a therapist if you have these feelings. This will help significantly in the long run. But this feeling made me want to stay home even more because the last thing that you want to feel out in public is like you're out of your mind and feel in a cloud or not present in the moment. Your mind tells you that you need to be on high alert when you leave the house, from the time you get in your car to drive, to being at that store or place you're at, to the drive home until you're safe in your house. Your mind takes the normal amount of alert that you need to be on and ups it by 100. If I did leave the house, it resulted in a panic attack almost every time. While it was nice to be able to stay home now, I think that being shut inside almost all day, every day, except for when I needed to get food and things that I needed, resulted in my social anxiety becoming the worst that it had ever been. It was the fear and anxiety of what could happen in public because honestly, in the world that we live in nowadays, really bad things are happening at grocery stores or other public places. But also the fear of being in crowds or in a situation that I couldn't get out of right away made me feel like I wanted to have a panic attack. Now, this wasn't just because of COVID. I felt like this before, but COVID made it increasingly more anxiety fueled because I was afraid of now catching the virus and passing it to my family. While COVID, my social anxiety, my depersonalization anxiety symptom, and panic attacks were getting worse, I made the decision to go ahead and not continue with my cosmetic business. I still loved makeup and I used it as my outlet for my anxiety, but there was no way that I could afford to start this business now that I had gotten laid off from my job or even get the supplies that I needed due to COVID messing up the shipping times and vendors being out of the key items that I needed to create the products. Now I look back at it and I see that it just wasn't the business that I was meant to create and follow through with because I was meant to create Kello Collective, which we will get into how Kello Collective started within the next few episodes, but between COVID, anxiety, being unemployed, dropping out of college, and now deciding to not continue with my cosmetic business, I was mentally at my limit. All hope and positivity was out the window. I felt stuck, trapped, and drowning in negativity. It was depressing. After soaking in all of these heavy feelings and reality of my life and reality of COVID sticking around for a long time, I try to think of new ways to move forward in life. I finally got a new retail job in the summer of 2020 and thought about what I wanted to do next in my career until I was ready to actually start a business. So towards the end of 2020, I enrolled in a real estate program because I was definitely not going back to college. It just wasn't for me. And to me, the only other thing that I could do that was actually interesting was real estate. So I got halfway through the program and something told me this also isn't right for me and I didn't want to do it anymore. So I stopped doing that program as well. As you could probably guess, this made me feel even worse mentally. And truly, I felt lost and like I was never going to get out of my parents' house and be independent. If only I had known what God's plan really was for me and what my life and anxiety would look like today and even the year after this. Before I get into what I know now that I wish I had known then about feeling stuck in life, I'm going to light my Kello Collective toasted coffee bean candle, which you can find on kellocollective.com. This candle is a delicious blend of coffee beans, cocoa beans, and vanilla bean. This blend fills the room with aromas of a freshly brewed cappuccino. All right, now that I've brought in some coffee shop vibes into the room, let's go ahead and get into the second half of this episode. It's crazy because in the moment, you might look at receiving a no to a job offer, not being approved for something, dropping out of school or a program, or even closing a business as a setback. But truly, it's all a part of your purpose to lead you to where you're really meant to be. Maybe the thing that you viewed as a setback or you being doomed because it didn't work out, even a relationship, is actually there to show you that you aren't in the right place mentally to receive what God really has in store for you yet, or what you really want for yourself. Personally, looking back on my life, especially during 2020, I see now that God had one of the biggest blessings and answered prayers for me coming just the next year, which is why I had so many failures and dead ends in 2020. I can 1,000% say that I was not in the right headspace in 2020 to own a business or become a realtor. I had a lot of growth that I needed to go through and healing from my anxiety. I wasn't in therapy at the time, and I wasn't working on even improving my anxiety. I was just drowning in it and trying to get through every single day. How can you run a business or even try to move up in a career at a job or start something new if you aren't in your right mind? If you don't have clear goals and a vision of where you want to be personally, career-wise, or even like what type of relationship you want, who you want to be, essentially where you want all areas of your life to be, then you don't have a direction to focus on to even start working towards that type of life. However, I will say that sometimes it's necessary to walk blindly in a season of life and go with the flow, even the ups and downs, because that's where God will build up your strength, courage, and even open your eyes to the things that you didn't even think about before by breaking you down, putting you in solitude from friends or even family, removing people from your life that no longer support who you truly are and the life you're destined for, and other ways. This is really where you turn to God and start listening to what He's telling you, listening to your gut, paying attention to how you feel around other people, and if they make you anxious or angry, if they bring you peace, happiness, and support. You start to pay attention to the signs and the angel numbers, but most importantly, you turn inward towards yourself. It's so funny to me when people look at you and they say, you've changed, you're different, you're acting weird. It's like, yeah, you're right, I have. I found myself, and I'm actually the true form of me now. I see people for who they really are, and if their actions are lining up with their words. I'm focused and aligned with my goals, and I'm no longer conforming to who you expect me to be. I could definitely go on about this, honestly, but we'll talk about this more in later episodes. I do wish, though, that the autumn in 2020, and even before when my anxiety really started, knew that If I had just turned to God and myself, I could change my life and my mind. If I had just worked on turning down the anxious thoughts that were lies making noise in my mind and really sat there alone thinking about what I wanted in life, I feel like I would have been able to come to these realizations a lot sooner. Do not listen to the noise in your mind. Listen to your heart and your gut feelings and God. I was so confused about what I wanted in life at this time and focused heavily on relationships instead of healing. But it's wild because seeds were being planted by God and my angels to show what was to come for me. They planted the seed of wanting to have my own business and be self-employed because I was meant to start Kello Collective 2 years later. They planted the seed of wanting to move away to a different state because they knew that that was going to happen the next year in 2021. They sat me in my anxiety because they were trying to show me that this was going to push me into self-discovery, self-love, and being aligned with my true purpose in life, and even starting this podcast. There's a silver lining and bright side of what you're going through in your life. Even if you don't see it at that moment, pay attention to the seeds that are being planted in your life. I also recommend finding a hobby or passion that you enjoy and is a healthy outlet to work on your anxiety and express what's on your mind. Makeup was that for me, but now it's candle making and this podcast. I cannot speak highly enough about how helpful having an expressive outlet is for you. It could be music, art, cooking, baking, doing hair, nails, whatever makes your heart the happiest and your soul calm and peaceful and relaxed. Do not let anyone make you feel weird or bad about doing something that you enjoy. Follow your heart and take the actions to shape yourself and your life into what you want it to be. I also suggest taking walks, exercising, sitting outside in nature, and maybe even taking a drive if that's what you enjoy. This can help clear your mind and help you when you feel trapped in your home environment or your mind. One thing that I struggled with was being alone, going out in public places, or being comfortable enough with myself to sit in the anxiety and thoughts alone. I see now, though, that that's the very thing that I needed to do. I know that it may be extremely hard to push through the fear and anxiety and confront the internal emotions or traumas that you have, but truly sitting in peace and silence with my thoughts is what helped me look inward and see what I wanted my life and myself to be like. Also, when I say sitting alone in your thoughts, for me, this is better to do at night because that's when I'm ready to wind down and reflect on the day and the current state of my emotions. I feel like this is when your emotions start to flood in, but you definitely need to do this if you have a chance to. When you have a moment of anxiety or obsessive thoughts throughout the day, just sit there, dig deep, center yourself, and see what the real source of that emotion might be. Also, take note of patterns of emotions and what emotions are coming to the surface because this can help you start to see the patterns and potential sources of the true anxiety that you experience. This goes for the goals in your life as well, reflecting on maybe these cycles and patterns in the past that you don't want to repeat. Think about what you want to do to change your life now and better your future. You can't change the past, and living in it is not going to do anything for the present moment, especially bringing up hurtful memories from your past. You have the power to change your life and not repeat actions in the past or decisions that led you to being unhappy. Ask yourself, what does my future house look like? What does my daily routine in the future look like? Who am I in the future? Am I happy, at peace, and thriving? What's my relationship like with my significant other? Am I married? Do I have kids? Whatever. There's so many questions you can ask yourself, but just really dissect each area of your life and think about what you want to have in your life in your future. That's how you start to open your eyes up and think about the life that you want to experience. Once you open your eyes up to what you truly want, though, you need to act on it. Do things with intention. Make a conscious effort to change yourself for the better and become the truest, happiest version of yourself. Take a new action that aligns with where you want to be. Go after that dream job, start that business, become a social media influencer, go back to school. Just follow your passion and what your heart desires. It will not be easy, but once you can get over the mountain that is clouding your view of the beauty that's waiting for you, once you cross over that mountain, you will thank yourself for continuing to push through the uncomfortable, frustrating down seasons of life. You may be asking yourself and God why your life hasn't changed, because you've been going through the same thing for years and nothing has been different. But what have you done to actually change your situation and shape yourself into who you really want to be? Remember that when you're going through the lows, this is only a season. It is truly temporary, but you will keep repeating the cycles and patterns and keep this as your reality if you do not make the conscious decision and effort to take the actions and put that in line with your words and change your life and your mindset. I certainly understand that it takes time, money, and other things to be able to achieve certain dreams. So we can't always do the things that we truly want to do when we want to do them. But, we have responsibilities and other people and things to take care of. So, I do want to let you know, though, that with the right mindset, prayer, and hard work over time, you can achieve these things that you really want. I wish in 2020 that I would have known that all of the anxiety I was experiencing was a result of the traumas in my mind, convincing me that my reality was way worse than it actually was. Keep this in mind when you're going through those low periods and check in with yourself to see if the words you're telling yourself are the truth and reality in your life, or if you're actually the one keeping yourself in that mental state by looking at things in that current moment with a negative outlook and point of view. I know it's way easier said than done to have a positive outlook. Trust me, I definitely know how you feel, and I still to this day have to consciously make sure that I'm not making my day or situation worse by making my problems bigger than they seem. But I can confidently say that after you put the work in and find your true self and align with your life's purpose, you will be so much happier and feel like a weight is lifted off your shoulder. It took significant time and challenging situations for me to get to that point, but taking actions with intention and being choosy of who I keep around me and getting closer to God and my angels showed me what was necessary to go through to get to the point that I'm at today. Those situations helped shape me and open my eyes to a lot of lessons that I needed to learn and things I needed to realize and wake up to, hey, I'm sitting here and not being treated right. And this can be in friendships, relationships, it doesn't matter. But also, I'm not treating myself right and I'm not taking care of myself mentally and actually in line with who I am. I don't know who I am. So now I'm here and I'm doing things with intention to actually know who I am and live in that. I ask you to take some time in the day and just sit in silence with your thoughts. Write your feelings down in a journal. Find a hobby if you don't have one already. Truly envision the person that you want to be, your future self, and the life that you want to create. Your life can truly be so beautiful if you really want it to be. And I just want you to also take the actions that align with those thoughts. Live with intention. Do things with intention and positivity, because I promise that what you're putting out there will come back to you. But I hope that I was able to provide you guys with some tips, insight, and motivation today. And I hope that you join me here next Tuesday as we get into 2021, where I had the worst panic attack in my life, which caused me to start going to therapy again. and how I took a leap of faith by quitting my job to shortly after be blessed with a life-changing event. Hey, I'm so glad that you made it to the end of this episode, and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to comment down below your favorite part of this episode, or maybe share something about your own journey. And make sure to check out the previous episodes of the A Motive Mind podcast that you may have missed. And don't forget to listen on Spotify if you prefer to listen to the audio recordings of this episode. And let's stay connected on Instagram and Facebook by liking, following, and sharing at A Motive Mind Podcast and my small business, Kello Collective. You can find all of the links down below in the description box, and it would mean so much to me for you guys to check them out. All right, well, I will see you guys on the next episode. And remember, together, let's create a motive mind.